I thought a building was only walls, habits, and numbers that behave. Then the elevator showed a soft 0 between 1 and 2, and I found my scarf 3 days before I lost it. Since then, I keep a diary the way some people keep umbrellas, near the door, for weather inside the house. Entry 1, early spring, Monday, Cedar Lane Apartments, Ashford Street. Cedar Lane has 9 honest floors and 1 roomer. Honest floors click by like a metronome. The roomer waits between 1 and 2 with the patience of a librarian. Some evenings the panel blinks an extra button, 0. You can glare, it will not appear. You can forget it, it will. I noticed it after work at Whitmore and Company, with the river shoving willow branches against the windows. Cinnamon drifted from 5. Elena Whitmore must have been baking, or at least thinking about it. I was still tasting tea without sugar from Willowbrook Cafe when the car paused. The panel warmed a saffron glow where no button lives. 0. I pressed it. The car sighed like a decision and slid sideways, which elevators usually refuse to do. The doors opened on a narrow landing no wider than 2 chairs. 1 gray doormat. 1 wooden chair. On the chair, a charcoal scarf with frayed tassels. My scarf. The left edge had the tiny bite where a thread remembers teeth. Mine, except it smelled of wet stone and book pages. At home, my own scarf still hung on the wall peg. I put the second beside it. They matched like twins who learned different cities. That night, I dreamed of a calendar with all the numbers replaced by early and late and not yet. Entry 2, Tuesday night. The button did not bother me in the morning. In the evening, it glowed as if it had been practicing. 0. The landing looked unchanged, but a plastic luggage tag dangled from the chair back. On the mat, a brass spare for my front door, on a ring with a coin that had a neat hole in the center. I had never made a spare. My regular keys clinked in my pocket with the self-importance of metal that gets to be important every day. I held the coin ring. It warmed as if it had recognized a wrist it belonged to in another week. The tag read in neat block letters, for later. On 5, Elena leaned out. Evening, Daniel, she said. Cinnamon buns are learning. Do you ever see a button that is not there? We all do, she smiled. Otherwise we would rest too much. She lifted a flowery hand. Tea without sugar tomorrow. At Willowbrook, I agreed. After midnight, I woke with the taste of metal in my mouth and reached for my usual keys. The bowl by the door was empty. Every pocket swore innocence. The spare in the drawer felt warm and proud of its promotion. I used it to unlock the door from the inside, which is a silly ritual, and sat in the dim until my eyes remembered the furniture. Entry 3, Wednesday, late afternoon. At Willowbrook Cafe, Tom Aldridge set down tea without sugar before I asked. You look like you needed a decision made for you, he said. Everything all right? How would you define all right? Hot, held, and not yet spilled, he said. Like that cup. On the ride home, the panel behaved until it almost did not. A shy glow where 0 would be if 0 were a place. I pressed with half a fingertip. The doors opened on the chair, and a neat cardboard box tied with string. A bus ticket lay on top, punched with holes that spelled out tomorrow in their blunt alphabet. Under it, a folded note. You will forget. The handwriting knew my wrist without being mine. I took the box home and did not open it. Sleep came in pieces and left in a hurry. Entry 4, Thursday, safe daylight. Morning makes even strange things look organized. I told myself I would ignore the rumor. The doors smiled anyway. On the chair lay a thin notebook with a soft cover. In the middle, on a page dated like a season instead of a number, late October, you will need this line. Beneath it, in my hand, a sentence I had not yet written anywhere. Do not name the day that lets you in. The superintendent, David Blackwood, stepped into the car just as I re-emerged on 2. Navy cap. Expressions that have seen most excuses twice. Afternoon, he said. Everything humming. Does Cedar Lane have extra? Extra? A floor, I offered. A room. There is a service landing between 1 and 2, he admitted. Old design. No call button. Panels sometimes ghosts when the weather leans. Ghosts, I said. Metal is only memory that forgot how to be rock, he said, which might be in the training manual or a poem. Entry 5, later Thursday, after dusk. The cardboard box kept whispering its string against the lid. I opened it. Inside lay a second charcoal scarf and a small envelope labeled receipt. The photograph inside smelled of drawer. It showed my coat on a hook, sleeves like empty arms. On the hook beside it, no scarf. On the back, in pencil, early return. The handwriting mirrored mine the way a window in rain almost mirrors a face. I lined the scarves like a shy choir. A small joy pressed my ribs. I had not yet lost anything today, and still something had been returned to me. At midnight, a tiny thing went missing anyway. Not a thing. A word. The one for what you put into boiling water to soften into dinner. Pasta. I could point to its outline. My mouth could not pick it up. I slept lightly, worried by how easily a day can swap pockets with itself. Entry 6, Friday, rain along the river. Floor 0 held 3 objects. A folded umbrella that clicked like a kind decision, a subway card with 2 rides left, and a metal button from a code I have not owned. On the wall, a tidy plaque announced, Cedar Lane, Floor 0, items held until needed. Beneath it, someone had scratched with a key, Lost keeps ITS receipts. I took the umbrella. I left the rest to keep the chair company. Outside, the rain accepted the umbrella without argument. On Ashford Street, puddles practiced being mirrors. Tom lifted a hand from the cafe window. Elena passed with a paper bag warm enough to smell like cinnamon through the rain. For a second, the city arranged itself as if for a photograph that needed no people. I decided the landing might be a stagehand with good instincts. Entry 7, Saturday morning, tea and warnings. The thin notebook grew heavier by simple proximity. I opened to a page labeled Early Spring. A paragraph waited in a voice my wrist recognized. If you take too much from 0, it takes something back. It prefers the small and the gentle, words, directions, names of streets, a habit like looking left first before crossing. It avoids cruel balances, but it balances. What if I return what I took? I asked. Rooms answer in drafts and clock ticks. The elevator answered with 0. The landing sat with its chair like a patient ant. I placed the umbrella back. The subway card shivered, then settled as if relieved to have a neighbor again. I do not know the physics. Gratitude is not physics, though it requires timing and weight. Entry 8, Saturday evening, soft rain. In the lobby, a flyer said found. Coin with a hole, sentimental value. The tear-off number belonged to Whitmore. Elena had lost a charm. I knocked with the coin in my palm. You saved me 10 searches, she said, tucking hair behind her ear. I thought I had lost it on Tuesday. You had, I said, then revised, you will not. Are you sleeping? Between floors, I said, and we laughed. She slid the coin into a tiny envelope and wrote for later as if she had seen the tag. That night the panel did not show 0. Relief arrived with a chaperone named Longing. At home, the missing word returned. Pasta. I said it twice and felt as if a little country on the map had reappeared with a small flag. Entry 9, Sunday, almost noon. Breakfast at almost noon, curse of free days. The panel lit for 1, then winked. 0. The landing had changed. A narrow shelf ran along the far wall with small brass lips to hold cards. Each slot wore a paper name, Elena W., David B., Tom A., and, at the end, Daniel M. Under my card, a white envelope in my hand. Inside, a bus schedule with a circle drawn around a town called Northwick, the morning route underlined twice. The ticket from the cardboard box would carry me there tomorrow. A note in the notebook hand. You will think this is about objects. It is not. It is about routes you have not yet lost. I sat on the chair and listened to the landing breathe. Through the grill, the building carried a little weather. Broom bristles, tea settling, the river sounding like a long good night. Entry 10, late Sunday, river after rain. Northwick kept pressing its circle into my pocket. At Willowbrook, Tom wrote specials on the board and underlined it so firmly chalk dust snowed slowly down. Trip planned, he asked. Maybe Northwick. Wear warm socks. Buses insist, he said with the authority of someone who has obeyed buses all his life. Back at Cedar Lane, the elevator opened on 5. Elena stood with a tray under a towel. For you, she said. First successful cinnamon buns this week. There are statistics for buns. There are statistics for everything worth repeating, she said. I will save one for David. You keep the rest. She glanced at the panel. Does it still do the thing? Sometimes. Be gentle. Machines get embarrassed when they discover they are magical. Entry 11, Monday, before the bus. I woke early and checked my pockets 3 times, a superstition that pretends to be organization. My usual keys waited where they should, which felt like luck disguised as habit. On the shelf under my name, a cloth pouch held a map of Northwick with a circle over a bookstore and a penciled note. Back room. Northwick is the size of a polite question. The bus hummed past hedges and a field that is practicing being a future development. A brass bell admitted me to the bookstore. In the back room, a white chair waited beside a tray labeled Tomorrow. Inside lay a single library card embossed with my name and an expiration date that read Never. Is this a joke? I asked the clerk, who wore round glasses and a tag that said Anna Whitmore. It is what it says, she said. Sometimes people find what they almost misplaced. If I take it, you take it, then it will feel inevitable. On the ride back, the river leaned toward me and away again. I understood a little thing. Floor 0 collects our inevitable belongings so we can arrive at them without panic. Entry 12, Monday night, gentle inversion. The inversion arrived quietly. I reached for my diary pen and found it missing. My hand went calmly to the thin notebook. The pen lay tucked at the center fold, as if it had been sleeping there since late October. The page waited with a short line. Loss is a librarian, and you are on speaking terms. I do not enjoy losing things. I enjoy pretending less. 0 is not a thief's den. It is a vestibule with a ledger and a patience that outlasts explanations. I put one scarf in the coat for almost winter. I hung the coin ring by the door. I returned the umbrella. Entry 13, Wednesday, after a deliberate Tuesday. On Tuesday, the panel withheld 0, as if to say, we are even for now. On Wednesday, Elena knocked with a jar of cinnamon sugar and advice on keeping it from clumping. Downstairs, David nodded at the elevator the way a farmer nods at weather. Humming nicely, he said. Metal remembers. Until we ask it to forget, I said. Best not to, he agreed. Entry 14, late Wednesday, new shelf labels. The shelf had grown. New cards. Marina H. For the night pharmacist on Ashford Street, who knows everyone's first name by the sound of the door, and A. Whitmore, which could be Anna or a cousin the shelf refuses to distinguish yet. Under my card, a folded paper read return window and showed a line drawn between two tick marks named early and late. On the back, a request in tidy script, practice small returns. I put the cardboard box and the duplicate scarf back on the chair. The chair did not mind. It accepts verbs as gladly as nouns. Entry 15, Thursday morning, returning verbs. Practice small returns. I tried returning a habit. For one whole day, I gave the elevator my impatience. I waited for it without glancing at the stairwell and without tapping my keys. The car arrived faster than usual, which is likely a trick of attention and also possibly kindness being answered. At Willowbrook, I returned a word to Tom. You were right, I told him. Hot, held, and not yet spilled is the definition of all right. He saluted with his towel. Definitions work until they do not. Then we write new ones. Entry 16, Thursday late, the double press. Curiosity leans. I pressed 0 twice. The car shuddered in a thoughtful way that was not quite approval. The doors opened only a hand's width. I heard a pen write on thin paper. The sound was warmer than a pen should sound. I said, I am sorry, without planning to. The doors opened the rest of the way. On the shelf under my card sat a folded index card with a printed word at the top, consequences. Inside, in the notebook hand, double presses speed the ledger. Take only what you can keep in your pockets without bragging. I took nothing. I sat and listened until the ventilation hum matched my breathing. Entry 17, Friday dawn, a dream with a lobby. Dream. I stepped into the lobby at dawn, and everything wore labels typed on narrow tape. Window, plant, door, chair, Daniel. I peeled my name and pressed it onto the chair. The chair sighed with relief. When I woke, the room felt lighter, as if I had removed a badge I no longer needed to wear while sleeping. Entry 18, Friday evening, 2 strangers and a rule. 2 new tenants stood in the lobby with suitcases that had traveled without them for some years. A man named Luke Mercer, no relation beyond accidents of syllables, and a woman named Chloe Aldrich. David handed them keys like blessings. I caught the elevator with them and watched the panel. It stayed honest. Between 1 and 2, there was only the usual thin patience of machinery. I discovered a rule by its absence. 0 does not show off for strangers. Entry 19, Saturday morning, a map that redraws. On the shelf under my name, a new map waited. this time of my own neighborhood with a path drawn in ink that avoided every puddle a recent rain had left. Who draws these? I asked the landing. The grill breathed tea steam and old broom answers. Perhaps I draw them and do not remember until I do. I followed the path. It led to a small shop I have walked past 100 times without entering. A place that sells keys, shoelaces, and a philosophy of mending. The owner, Mr. Mercer of a different branch, held up a tiny envelope without looking at me. You left this to be kept, he said. Inside lay the missing metal button from my coat. Payment, he asked. A story would do. So I told him about floor 0. He nodded in the rhythm of someone who hears a familiar melody played by a new instrument. Entry 20, Saturday night, a ledger of kindness. I found a new object on the chair, a stitched booklet with the title Ledger of Kindness. Inside, blank lines, and on the first line, written neatly, one scarf returned before sorrow. On the second, a coin sent back to a wrist. On the third, silence kept in an elevator when impatience asked to be loud. I wrote, tea without sugar shared even when words were late. The pen felt heavier than ink should feel. I understood that 0 holds not only objects, but also the weight of how we pass them hand to hand. Entry 21, Sunday, the not yet phone call. A folded slip under my card. A call will come from a number that looks like a date. Do not say your name. Say, I am expected. The phone rang in the afternoon. The number read 1703, which is a room, a year, or a trick. I said, I am expected. The line breathed, then clicked to a dial tone as neat as a librarian closing a drawer. Perhaps I have saved myself a loop by answering with a sentence that leaves no sharp corners. Entry 22, Monday, the night pharmacist's shelf. Marina Holloway at the night pharmacy knows too much about how people ration their courage. She slid a brown paper bag across the counter with my name already on it. Tea for sleeping, without promises, she said. Someone left this for you. Who? A future you, she said without smiling. Happens. On the shelf at 0, her card Marina H. now held a folded recipe for a syrup that tasted like quiet. I put the recipe back. Not every instruction is meant to be pocketed. Some want to live at a specific address. Entry 23, Tuesday, a quiet emergency. An emergency without lights. Elena's door would not latch. The building sometimes changes the sizes of its answers. David met me at 5 with a toolbox that had belonged to his father. Hold the door, he said. I held while he adjusted the plate and sang under his breath the way people do when their hands are busy and their minds are remembering. The latch agreed to be itself again. Elena gave us buns as if they were medals. On the ride down, 0 appeared for a second, then changed its mind. I realized, even magic gets tired when people help each other the regular way. Entry 24, Wednesday, a gift to the chair. I left a gift for the chair, a small cushion with a cinnamon-colored cover. The chair has hosted my waiting without complaint. The landing accepted the cushion the way a friend accepts an unneeded but sincere present, kindly, and with relief that the thought itself arrived safely. Entry 25, Thursday, the wrong envelope. A white envelope under my name that did not feel like mine. Inside, a letter addressed to Anna Whitmore. I returned it to the wrong slot on purpose to see what the shelf would do. The card under Anna changed to A. Whitmore, without choosing which. The landing dislikes decisions made on behalf of other people. I put the letter back under my own name and wrote on the front in pencil, for Anna, when she is ready to be Anna. The landing approved with a small sound like a coat finding its hook. Entry 26, Friday, the double absence. I lost 2 things at once. The word for the color between orange and gold, and the habit of checking the oven twice. I found the word later in Tom's chalk, which remembered saffron on behalf of all of us. The habit returned when I burned a tray and laughed, and cleaned it without scolding myself. Not every return needs drama. Some arrive as chores. Entry 27, Saturday, the apology that arrives early. On the chair, a small card that said I am sorry in my hand. No object attached. I pocketed it. That evening I found the occasion. I had been short with Marina when the pharmacy line moved slowly. I went back and said, I am sorry. She tapped the counter twice as if to stamp the sentence. Accepted, she said. Please let the building know. I wrote accepted in the ledger of kindness. 0 hummed like a refrigerator that believes in me. Entry 28, Sunday, a door labeled returns. A new door had appeared on the landing. Narrow, with a brass label that said returns and a keyhole the size of a careful thought. I had no key. I knocked. A paper slid out from under the door like a polite animal. On it, 3 rules. 1. Do not return what someone else has not given you to keep. 2. Do not return in anger. It turns into throwing. 3. Return more silence than objects. It weighs less and travels farther. I taped the paper inside my diary and felt my day grow a little larger to fit the advice. Entry 29, Monday, a catalog of not yet losses. Under my card, a neat catalog had begun, a list in small printing. A bus seat warmed by a stranger you will never see again. A train step skipped to avoid superstition. A paperback with a corner turned down instead of a bookmark. A shopping list left in a basket for someone else to read. A spare laugh saved for rain. I checked none of them. Some lists are meant to accompany rather than to be acted upon. Entry 30, Tuesday, Tom's turn. Tom appeared under Tom A, with a folded napkin that read, in chalk rubbed to pencil, "Today I will not be brave in the heroic way, only in the polite way." He shrugged when I asked. "Chalk returns different when the board is wet," he said, which I took for philosophy disguised as weather. Entry 31, Wednesday, the long breath. I pressed 0 and did not step out. I let the doors open and close once, twice, like a breath you take before you decide. On the third open, I stepped onto the landing and whispered, "Thank you." It is embarrassing to be grateful to architecture. It is also correct. Entry 32, late Wednesday, the unadvice. A slip under my name. UN advice for when you are tired. Do not optimize the evening. Do not chase the last chore. Do not name the exact reason. Make tea. Sit near a book. Let the building tidy its own weather. I obeyed. The night passed with the soft sound of rain and pages turned none. Entry 33, Thursday, the second inversion. Another notebook appeared, this one stamped with a small cedar leaf. Inside, in a different hand that might be David's if David wore a different century, the landing was built on purpose. The plans call it the courtesy landing. We called it floor 0 because we like numbers when we are shy. The mechanism is ordinary. The work it does is not. So someone knew. The city had budgeted for kindness and hidden it in the blueprints where nobody sues for more. Entry 34, Friday, what if? What if the landing is not even about loss? What if it is about rehearsal? We practice returning before we must. We practice saying thank you while there is still time to mean it. We practice not naming certain days because some doors, once named, keep answering when you would like to sleep. I told this to Elena while we dusted her shelves. She said, "Practice is the only magic I trust." Entry 35, Saturday, a small parade. Neighbors met in the lobby without planning it. Marina, David, Tom, Elena, even Luke and Chloe with their suitcases finally unpacked. Someone had brought a radio that understands only one station. Cheerful. We did nothing official. We stood around and named easy things we had almost lost lately and found again. Umbrellas, recipes, the habit of knocking rather than texting that you are outside. The elevator rested. 0 did not appear. The landing took the night off, which is fair. Entry 36, Sunday, an instruction to me. Under my card. When you write, do not make the landing cleverer than it is. Do not make yourself the hero. Make tea for whoever needs to sit on the chair next. I made 2 cups and left one on the landing with a note. For whoever is about to remember where they left their words. Entry 37, Monday, Northwick again. Back to Northwick to return the library card for an afternoon. Anna stamped it gently, which is a skill and a kindness. In the back room, the tray labeled tomorrow now held a small stack of blank cards and a pencil on a string. I wrote 3 words, check the chair. It felt like writing my own reminder in a place where it will be found by a better version of me. Entry 38, Tuesday, the question of keeping. How much do we keep? How much do we let the landing keep until the day an object or a thought will actually help? I tried leaving a joke on an index card to see if joy could be held and returned like a scarf. The landing returned the joke to me immediately with a gentle no. Joy wants circulation rather than storage. Lesson accepted. Entry 39, Wednesday, a memory without date. I remembered walking a dog I never owned along the river. The memory was precise about the leash and vague about the breed. I realized it was borrowed, a memory I had witnessed and kept by standing nearby. I wrote it down and slid the page under the returns door. The page did not slide back. Some things choose their shelves and do not ask permission. Entry 40, Thursday, Elena's rule. Elena left a note on the shelf under her name. If you borrow a recipe, feed 3 people. The landing hummed in approval. I borrowed her cinnamon trick and fed David and Tom and myself, and felt the rule work immediately in the way of simple science. Entry 41, Friday, the last small fear. I kept one fear near my throat. That one day the panel would offer 0 and the doors would open on nothing. No chair, no shelf, no doormat, empty concrete. A reminder that magic sometimes goes back to wherever it waits between gigs. I pressed 0 anyway. The landing waited as it always does, more patient than I deserve. Entry 42, Saturday, balance sheet. The ledger of kindness had filled a few lines more and left more blank than written, which feels like the right proportions for a life. I read it aloud quietly on the landing so the building would know I had noticed. The grill breathed. A loose screw somewhere gave a polite click, as if to sign. Entry 43, Sunday, closing. If you find this diary in a coat that is not yours, know this: I did not lose it. I placed it where it could be found. That is the center of most of our stories now. The chair, the shelf, the tray with tomorrow on a label that never peels. The librarian rhythm of a building that writes with us. If the panel ever shows you a soft 0 between 1 and 2, press it once and let the doors think. Step out. Sit. Listen. You might hear tea settling through the grill. You might smell cinnamon from a floor above. You might see your name in small brass and feel that old, useful calm. You are not missing. You are on a list. You are expected. When you leave, leave something gentle behind. A note, a spare, a kindness. Loss keeps its receipts. Generosity keeps better ones. Tag. Loss keeps its receipts, and we can too.